Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia. Welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup 2020 Team of Week 25. So, it's been really interesting these past 2 weeks, but this week especially, because we've really seen this Wrecking Ball Zarya comp really kind of seal its way in to what we saw through a lot of teams this weekend. And it's meant that a lot of different players have come to the forefront. And most obviously, it's the Chengdu Hunters that have really benefited from this sort of comp. But also we've seen some teams do a bit better because they've changed a few things up. So let's take a look at what players I've picked out this week for Team of the Week. And it's a very different looking Team of the Week. I'm not going to lie, it's a very different looking Team of the Week. There's no Philadelphia Fusion here. There's no Guangzhou Charge here. There's no Shanghai Dragons here either. So that's three teams that have actually featured quite a bit in Team of the Week over the past 6 or so months since the league started. So we are going to start off with our main support. Now, main support's been an interesting one this week. Sometimes it's been Lucio, sometimes, well, a lot of the time it's been the Brig, and a lot of the time it's been the Mercy. Now, why have we seen more Mercy play? Well, the reason is Genji is very much meta on the patch that's being played. And so Genji likes a little bit of that damage boost. He likes a little bit of that pocket, that old Genji. And normally it comes from Ana with her damage boost. Nano boost. But obviously no Ana in the pool for the past 2 weeks. So it's fallen to Mercy, the OG healer of Overwatch, the OG support of Overwatch, to fill that role with her lovely blue beam and yellow beam. And that means we've seen much more Mercy than we usually do across both regions, actually. And it's interesting because very often this player has had to switch from Mercy to Brigitte, which is not normally what we've seen. Over the past 6 months, we've seen mostly them switching between the Lucio and the Brigitte, because you want to protect that back line. But there's been less need for that. So, I have put Yveltal in this slot of the Chengdu Hunters. I think Yveltal has been very, very stable. And Yveltal is actually well known for some very high tier Mercy play. Don't get to showcase it all that often. As I mentioned, Mercy is not really meta. She's not normally meta. We haven't seen Mercy be heavily played since she was, dare I say, OP, when she had her rework back when she was given, not insta-res, but like her mass res was taken away, and she was given a Valkyrie. So it's very interesting to see Mercy come back a tiny little bit, and I'm no doubt that next week and further forward, with Ana coming back, we're probably going to see Mercy die off a little bit. But Yveltal is well known for good Mercy play, and demonstrated that this week. The Chengdu Hunters obviously had a phenomenal week, getting victories over the Seoul Dynasty and a comprehensive win over the Hangzhou Spark. And very often you will see Yveltal getting things done. And I actually saw him pick up some pretty incredible reses, I should say. And to be quite honest, I was wondering sometimes, like, how the hell have you got that off? But Yveltal was always in the right place at the right time. Every time Jinmu went in for a blade, he's got the blue beam on him, and Jinmu's going ham. And that's exactly what you want to see from a Mercy player. And also, Yveltal knew the time to switch. He knew the time where he had to let Jinmu go, switch the Mercy to the Brigitte because the backline was getting beaten up. And became very effective on that Brigitte. And I remember him shutting down Prophet at times on that Brigitte, which was part of the reason why the Chengdu Hunters were able to see out that game as a 3-2. But I will give this to Yveltal. Now, the flex support was an interesting one. I was impressed with Aim God this week at the Washington Justice. Obviously, then getting a 3-1 win over the Houston Outlaws really boon them. But it was between two people for me. It was between. I also want to mention that Twilight had a good week in the main support, and so did Funny Ashtray. But in the flex support, for me, it was between two people. Highly of the London Spitfire. Now, London Spitfire didn't win this week, but they took the Shanghai Dragons extremely close, and they almost got a reverse sweep. It was, I mean, when I look at the first map of that set on Oasis, that was so close. So close. Knife's edge sort of stuff. And if that map had gone differently, we might have seen a different result. But it's all very well looking back. But Hailey was definitely not the weak spot for the London Spitfire. Hailey has been playing very well over the recent weeks and is really starting to become a backbone of this London Spitfire team. And this week was no exception despite the loss. So Hailey definitely deserves a mention, but I can't stray away from Violet. And this is going to be, I mean, it's a little polarizing because Violet won't be playing next week because he's banned for some, should we say, not very wise words in competitive play during his downtime. But he won't be playing against the Houston Outlaws for San Francisco Shock next week. So he's let himself down, but I don't want to detract from his play this weekend, which has been phenomenal. Violet, again, is one of the best flex supports in this league, and he showed it once again up against the Florida Mayhem and up against the Vancouver Titans. He was so powerful on the Zen. So powerful, reminding me of Jonak back in the inaugural season. And he matches this great Transcendence usage, great Orb usage, but also massive pick potential, massive pop-off potential. I mean, we remember when Jonak in the inaugural season was matching the damage output of DPS with that Zen. Violet reminds me of that Jonak. And this week, he really demonstrated that, especially against the Florida Mayhem. I thought he was fantastic. And so I really do have to give this to Violet, in my opinion. And it's a shame he's let himself down outside of the league, and he's been fined and given a one-match ban, which means he won't feature next week. But yeah, come on, Violet, tone down that little bit of tilt that you've got when you play competitive. You're a great player. Don't let yourself down. But moving on to our tanks and our off tank. Now, this is a really interesting one because we've seen some DPS players move to the off tank role because of the prevalence of Zarya alongside the Wrecking Ball. One of the players I wanted to note most about this is Late Young of the Chengdu Hunters. He's not going to get this spot, but he had a phenomenal week on that Zarya and really was a massive contribution to the Chengdu Hunters' massive week this weekend. Elsa would not have been able to do this for the Chengdu Hunters, and it's quite clear that Late Young is actually a really darn good Zarya, and we knew this from the last season, so I really want to give him a shout out. Hanbin has been fantastic for the Paris Eternal, as he always is, but I am going to give this to the newcomer. I'm going to give this to Bianca. So Bianca of the New York Excelsior. New York got a 3-0 win over the Guangzhou Charge this week. And it's one of their best results all season and one of their best looks all season. And I put this a lot down to the fact that they played Bianca over Hotba. Bianca seems to stabilise the New York Excelsior. Hotba has been hot and cold. He's been sometimes too aggressive, sometimes too passive, and he's kind of... Sometimes it's been live or die by Hotba. And I don't think he's also got that gel with Mano quite right. We all remember the duo of Mano and Meko, which was one of the most powerful tank duos possibly we've ever seen in Overwatch, when it was at NYXL in the first 2 seasons of the Overwatch League and before that as well. And obviously with Meko leaving, he goes to the Houston Outlaws, and we all know about that. But we're looking to see if Hotba can be this partner that Mano needs, and I'm not sure whether he is. Bianca, however, not only was great himself, but seems to get the best out of the people around him as well. Mano had a fantastic week this week, and I'm also going to mention him for the main tank role because Mano was playing the Wrecking Ball. And we know Mano is a fantastic Reinhardt, we know Mano is a fantastic Winston, we know Mano has a serviceable Orisa. But Wrecking Ball? Like, I didn't think Mano's Wrecking Ball was that good, but this week he proved that wrong. He's got a great Wrecking Ball, and his synergy with Bianca was fantastic. So I want to see New York Excelsior play more Bianca if they can. Now, we don't know how great Bianca's Diva is, we don't know how great Bianca's Sigma is, so we might see Hotba come back in next week because You know, Orissa's coming back, so I'm expecting Orisa Sigma to be pretty strong again. You know, I'm not expecting Hammond Zarya to stick around. But if it does, I want Bianca playing. That's as simple as that. But this was a really good look from the NYXL this week, and I really think they owe it to Bianca and the stability he offered to this roster during that Guangzhou Charge game. It required a lot of guts from the NYXL coaches to put Bianca in a game against the Summer Showdown champions. And I'm glad they did it. It got them the win. Good job, NYXL coaches. Main tank then. Again, a lot of mentions. Smurf, really good week for the San Francisco Shock. Fate had a good week for the Florida Mayhem. Mano, as I mentioned just now, had a really good week and really stepped up. We've seen him beat up and down this season, but if he can carry on like that, he's going to get better. Jihoon of the London Spitfire. We didn't see any J-Mac this week. We saw all Jihoon, and he looked great. London Spitfire, take note. He's also got a really good Orisa. We don't need to see J-Mac. Swoosh, whoosh. We don't need to see him. I mean, this week we have seen a ton of Wrecking Ball. So when you look at the results, who do you think's got the main tank role? It's gotta be the ball god, the chat that is Meng, hasn't it, of the Chengdu Hunters. He causes chaos when he's on the Wrecking Ball. In this sort of meta, chaos reigns. And this is what the Chengdu Hunters absolutely love. And Meng is the king of chaos. He causes absolute pandemonium in backlines when he's on that Wrecking Ball. And he did this against the Seoul Dynasty and against the Hangzhou Spark. And yes, he may not have been lighting up the kill feed every single time he goes in, but that's not what a main tank does. A main tank creates space. And what a Meng did very well is he went in and created space for the likes of Leave and Jinmu to do the things they do. And Leave and Jinmu have been fantastic this week. They've been phenomenal. And a lot of it is down to the fact that not just Late Young, but a Meng, and he's the big space creator here, is creating space and giving them these opportunities. And so a Meng has been fantastic this week. Now, sorry to rain on your parade, Meng, and the Chengdu Hunters, but I'm not expecting Hammond to be meta next week. I'm expecting the Orisa Sigma to be back. I know, big cries, big sad, everyone. But it's fun while it lasted. And to be quite honest, if they want to keep running it and they can get any sort of value out of it, then go ahead, guys, because it's really fun to watch. And Meng has been fantastic this week, and that's why he gets his main tank role. So that means we are left with our DPS, and DPS has actually been rather tough. I've been kind of swaying between different people and putting people in different roles, blah, 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 blah. We're going to start off with our projectile flexi sort of utility DPS people. Genji, basically. It's pretty much Genji all the time. Okay, Haxel's had a decent week for the New York Excelsior. Jinmu has been really good, and I mean, like, can't express how good Jinmu's been, but it's not Jinmu, and it's gonna be, this might polarize people about why I haven't picked Jinmu, but Jinmu, he's fantastic, he's absolutely great, but he's always great. Like, he's fantastic, Jinmu, and he always gets fantastic value with his blades, and he sometimes can put that Chengdu Hunters team on his back. But I'm actually going to give this to a player that hasn't won a match this weekend. And they played two. This is Kevster of the Los Angeles Gladiators. I felt really sorry for Kevster, especially in the match against the Philadelphia Fusion, because he was up against EQO, right? Genji versus Genji. And to be quite honest, Kevster was the better. And to be honest, when we look back at the Summer Showdown final, EQO was ripping it up on the Genji, right? Kevster, he was great. He was actually great for the Gladiators. Gladiators would have never been able to go toe-to-toe with the Philadelphia Fusion without the Kevster Genji. He was really good. We come to, obviously, the Paris Eternal game where Gladiators pretty heavily lost. And it's a tough week for the Gladiators. You know, Fusion and Paris Eternal, that's the 2 Summer Showdown finalists. That's really tough. Really, really, really tough. Kevster's Sombra was definitely serviceable. There was one, maybe if Yolt, where he solo ulted a Primal Raging Winston, which, yeah, not great. But to be quite honest, that was near the end of the round. I think it was 99% overtime on Busan. So, okay, I'm winning. Everyone makes the odd mistake. Let's move on from that. But Kevster's Genji was fantastic this weekend, and from the position he was in, I think he got astounding value. He really, really did. So I really wanted to acknowledge him here, and I ended up giving the spot to him. I know, it's kind of weird. But, yeah, I'm going to take the flame for that, because loads of people are probably going to say it should have been Jinmu. Okay, I mean, I honestly think those 2 Genjis were on a par with their performances this weekend. It's just unfortunate that the rest of the Gladiators couldn't get them over the line, and arguably, you know, Gladiators played tougher teams than Chengdu. Just saying. But we move on to our hit scan roll, and again, a bunch of people to choose from here. Lip's Sombra. Now we know that the Shanghai Dragons, and I said this in the results video, the Shanghai Dragons don't play the Genji. They know they are weak on the Genji, so they avoid it. They end up playing Chase Sombra Dive, and it ended up getting them the win against London. It ended up getting them a comprehensive victory against Seoul Dynasty. But Lip's Sombra was terrorizing at times. It may not have been the massive pop-off EMPs, but he really was terrorizing the backline of London and the backlines of Seoul Dynasty at times, to the point where it kind of made them a bit nervous. But Striker had a really good weekend. But a shock, as always. Birdring, again, for the Gladiators. Not quite as good as Kevster, in my opinion, but he had a really good weekend. But it's going to go to Leave. Leave, you know, he has been that constant pick potential for the Chengdu Hunters. Leave looks good when Chengdu Hunters look bad. Very often, both of the DPS for the Chengdu Hunters do. And it is very good that the Chengdu Hunters have a stable DPS line like Leave and Jinmu right now, and I think it's really paying dividends when the meta comes around. I really don't think it's the DPS that let the Chengdu Hunters down, put it that way. And I think Leave is fantastic on the Ashe. I really, really do. I think he's one of the best Ashes in the league, actually. Because not a lot of Ashe players stand out, do they? Not like we see when we see Widowmaker, and we see the massive pop-ups from the likes of Ans at the San Francisco Shock, and Exy of the Paris Eternal when we see him on McCree or the Widowmaker. But we don't see many Ashe players pop off, in my opinion. It seems to go under the radar, but Leave bucks that trend. We always see fantastic play from Leave, and so I really wanted to give him this spot, which means that there are 3 Chengdu Hunters players in this team of the week, and I didn't think that would ever happen this season. Yeah, it's been quite a week. It's been quite a week, isn't it? I don't think it's going to be like this next week. I really don't. But I'm going to leave it here for this one. The next video will be a meta preview because, yes, we don't have hero pools next week. I wonder what the meta's going to be. But I'm going to leave it here for this one. So, thank you guys so much for this video. If you'd like to give a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.